Yeah. Well, hello everybody. My name is Tom Muselar, and thanks for giving me an opportunity to share what search and rescue has meant to me and to my family, especially in this last year. And I'm hoping that my sharing my story will serve as a bit of encouragement to all of you as you continue on in the great work that you're doing. The picture that you see in front of you is of the Vasquez Wilderness, which is near, well, there's a bunch of access points, but it's in Grand County. So every fall, my partner Jason and we hike into the Vasquez Wilderness to do about a 5-day bow hunt. We go in with fairly heavy packs. We bivvy in different places. We move around quite a bit, trying to figure out where the deer and the elk are moving. And the picture that you see here is a basin that we dropped into on day 3. Now, day 2, day before had been a particularly long day. We had spent probably 20 hours on our feet. We gotten up extremely early, spotted some elk in a basin in a far distance, and had spent the whole day trying to go after them. And didn't get back to camp until well after midnight. So I was fatigued, and I'm not spring chicken anymore. I turned 50 this year, so fatigue is probably a major factor to what went wrong the following day. And I'm sort of learning as I get older that I need to take care of my body and listen to when it's tired and give it the rest that it needs. But the following day, we had sat on top of the ridge that you see in the picture here, and we're well above tree line, probably about 12,000 feet of elevation, and we'd glassed down in this basin for a couple of hours and been watching 2 really nice sized bucks feeding, waiting for them to bed. And when they did bed about midday, we decided that we were going to pursue them. So we walked from the ridge down, tried to find a decent access point because it's fairly steep in here, and descended about 1,000 feet of elevation into this valley, and got down successfully. And we're about to cross a flat basin, a little lake area, to start our stalk. And right as we had entered that little flat basin, I took some kind of wrong step, and I felt my whole body move forward, and I heard crunching. And as I fell forward, I realized something bad was happening. And I rolled over a couple times on my backpack. And when the dust had cleared, I looked down at my ankle and had basically shattered it. All the bones were broken. My foot was dangling to the side. So it was a pretty severe break. My first break. I really hadn't gone through something like that before. And Jason and I immediately sort of sat down and took stock and said, okay, what do we need to do here? We figured out quickly that I was not going to get out of there on my own power. We thought about maybe having him try and help me out, or fashioning crutches or something like that. But to get out of there, if you look down that basin, it would have been miles and miles of some fairly tough country, fairly rugged country, and would have been a real challenge to get out of there. So we realized that we needed help, that we needed backcountry extraction, and all we had with us was a cell phone. So the first thing we thought to do was to have Jason climb back up to the ridge, the Continental Divide, and get in touch with emergency services. And so he did that. We also propped me up on a backpack, tried to make me as comfortable as we could, tried to give me some circulation in the foot and elevate it. And we were prepared to have to spend the night down there if we needed to. We were actually fairly well prepared for that. We had a lot of emergency stuff, fire starter, emergency blankets, and that our bivvies weren't all that far. So if we had to, Jason could have gone back and retrieved that stuff, and we would have, it would have been a long night, but we probably could have survived. So Jason went up to the Continental Divide and he called emergency services, and they sent out a helicopter. The first helicopter that they sent out was Clear Creek, from the Clear Creek side, and they had trouble finding us. They did one flyover. We saw them go over, and it was already starting to get late in the day, and they didn't spot us, and they took off, which was a bit disheartening. And Jason, in the meantime, had come all the way back down into the basin to be with me while we were waiting for the helicopter. So we realized he needed to go back up and make another call. And this time he got in touch with Summit County Rescue, and second helicopter came out, and they were able to actually spot us. And one of the things that helped is that Jason stayed on the ridge, and he flagged them down, while he was on the Continental Divide. And then I was in camo, so I was pretty hard to spot, but I had, on the good advice of my wife, I'd taken a running shirt that I used just to climb hills so that my camo stuff doesn't get all overly sweaty. And this is a bright yellow running shirt. It's neon, and so I waved that around, and that that was enabled the rescue services to find me. So in the last picture, you can see that the helicopter had landed. There's the small little lake right next to it. This was as close as they could get to me. So I needed really to rely on their help to get to the helicopter. And I have to say that these guys were fantastic, because not only were they were very capable medically. They did everything they could to make me as comfortable as possible. They were very strong. They were able to help me out of there, with very little effort on my part. I just wasn't able to do too much. And they were also just very, they're really savvy with the helicopter. They knew how the helicopter needed to be weighted. They asked my buddy to help out with pushing on a certain part of the helicopter to make sure that we could take off okay. And I was just very impressed with just how good these guys were, how efficient they were, how fast they got me out of there. And when we had talked to Search and Rescue Services before they came in, they had indicated that if they couldn't land the helicopter, that it would have to be a backcountry retrieval by an actual search and rescue team on a backboard the following day, and that would have been a pretty long extraction. I think they were calculating something like 12 hours, and they kept saying, let's hope we don't have to go there, because that's not going to be very comfortable. So we were pretty glad that the helicopter was able to land here. And again, I was really impressed that it could land in terrain this difficult. They got me out of there quickly. It was a 10-minute ride over to Frisco Summit Medical Center, and from there on, the team there took over. But really, this, without these folks, none of that would have been possible. I mean, these guys were really the difference makers between me coming out of there safely and quickly versus, perhaps me not even coming out of there at all. So the pictures you just saw, the first one was my hunting partner of, gosh, probably 7 years now, Jason, and just really good friend. He was the one that literally sprinted up the Continental Divide 2 times to call in a helicopter. And, it's not lost on me and also my family that had he not been with me that day, that I might still be down there, because I was in full camo. I had a cell phone with me, which didn't work down there. It only worked up on the peak. I couldn't move. So, if someone hadn't known that I was down there, it might have taken many, many days to find me, or maybe I wouldn't have been found. And as a result of that experience, my wife insisted that we get one of these, and this has been extremely helpful. For us, we used it this year when we went hunting. We can now send text messages from just about anywhere, and also location information through satellite. So this has been great, and I would recommend these to whoever's in the backcountry. And I also just want to say that just want to encourage, as you talk to people who are going out in the backcountry, to avoid what whenever possible, avoid going in alone, because I think I realize now how just what even seems like a simple step and misstep can go really, really wrong. And then the last picture is my wife and 3 kids, and I put that up there just so you all know that, when you're helping somebody in the backcountry, you're not just helping that person, but you're also, they have people behind them who love that person. My family means the world to me. I can't imagine what would have happened had that day gone differently. And so what you guys do is so very important and makes a real difference in people's lives. And I know my wife and I get pretty emotional thinking about that day and what could have happened. But we're really profoundly grateful to Search and Rescue, and just want to acknowledge Arapahoe Rescue Patrol and encourage the work that you guys are doing. Just keep doing it. Sometimes it may not always seem like it's impactful, but I know in my case it's incredibly impactful, and we're all very, very grateful. So thank you for listening, and I hope this was helpful to you.